As is often the case, we are navigating by the stars under cloudy skies.
That was Jay Powell waxing lyrically, and it's clear his affinity for Grateful Dead comes shining through, right? I mean, think of the line. It's not too dissimilar from that one classic Dead song, Ripple. There is a road, no simply highway between the dawn and the dark of night. Joining me now, another Grateful Dead fan, I think. QI Research CEO, Chief Strategist, Danielle DiMartino Booth. When he said the line, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But what's the entire event? Was it music to your ears? Do you feel better now that you've heard it?
Well, look, Charles, it was so balanced. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard Chair Powell be as balanced as, I mean, he definitely had on the one hand and on the other hand, and he just went back and forth. And really, there wasn't much conveyed that he hasn't already said and repeated over and over again. And I think that was what was important. It was that he's not changing his stance, even though there's pressure on him to raise the inflation target, which that's what every American household wants. They want for their dollar to go even less far.
Yeah, but by the same token, nobody wants to lose their job either, right? I mean, it seemed like even within the speech, he's acknowledging that there's certain things that the Fed can't control, and yet if they keep hiking rates, the parts that they can control, they may be overdoing it. So, it's certainly a quandary, it feels like.
It is, Charles. And, to your point, with 48 states between the 50 plus Washington, D.C., where there are rising numbers of continuing jobless claimants, people collecting unemployment benefits. We hear with greater frequency that companies are pushing through layoffs after we really did go through a nice lull in the summertime. So there are very real consequences to monetary policy. But you're right. He did say in his speech, you know what? Fighting inflation is going to be more important, at least for now.
So the bond yields are up. The stock market, though, is also up. And it's just an interesting reaction to me. Now it looks like November, there's a 55% chance of a rate hike in November. But can we look even beyond that? Or we now just really have to take it month by month, meeting by meeting, just dependent completely on the data?
That's what he's saying that they're going to do. There are it's interesting, though, because listening to some of the other Fed leaders out in Jackson Hole, there's clearly dissent brewing on that committee, because a few months ago, Charles, when I was last in studio with you, we were talking about the fact that everybody was towing the same line. That's not the case anymore. So you're hearing a lot of disparate voices on that committee, and things could get interesting here over the next few meetings.
There's a chart that's been making the rounds for a couple of weeks. I think Apollo put it out that shows inflation in the 1970s, and it shows where we are right now. And it's hinting at what they call an echo boom in inflation being right around the corner. Are you buying that?
Not really. We had confidence come out of Germany this morning that was awful. It's pretty apparent that China's got the lowest growth rate in 40 years. So it's hard for me to have a convincing argument that we're going to see sustained increases in energy prices. And on top of that, we've had 1.2 million apartments come online in the last 3 years, and there's another 1 million more units in the pipeline. So your largest input to inflation, Charles, which is shelter, is going to continue coming down.
It sounds then like maybe it's just a matter of time. When this whole thing began, when the whole inflation boom began, a lot of economists came on and they all kind of said the same thing. The cure for high prices, high prices. I mean, are we at that inflection point now?
It certainly seems like it. And when we had data out of S&P Global on the service sector a few days ago, Chris Williamson, the economist, said, companies are losing pricing power. They're having to take their prices down. That doesn't mean that their input costs are necessarily coming down at the same rate, but we heard from 80% of the economy, the service sector, that pricing power is becoming very problematic. So I think that is where we head next, and that's what we're hearing, whether you're talking about airlines or hotels, that demand is falling off for discretionary discretionary purchases.
All right, well, let's hopefully it'll keep moving in the right direction. Danielle, thank you very much. Appreciate it.